The Nigerian startup ecosystem is booming with a number of young minds and small tech companies constantly finding ways to solve local problems, thereby helping to accelerate innovation. And in Lagos, home to a vibrant tech cluster is where you find an abundance of tech communities, but a lot needs to be done to ensure that these startups and innovative minds have an enabling and friendly environment to grow. Opportunities are on the rise as the growth in the space attracts global investors and intending partners, but that does not mean that the startup culture doesn't have its own unique challenges. On this week's episode of the program, Olatubosun Alake, the special advisor to the Lagos State Governor on Innovation and Technology, speaks to us on how we can deepen innovation in the ecosystem.
Tubosu, glad to have you on Tech Trends today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, what's your take on the growth of the tech ecosystem in Lagos today?
Okay, thanks for that question. I think we've seen exponential growth over the past couple of years, at least going on the better part of a decade now. And we've seen huge leaps and bounds in different sectors. FinTech has experienced, of course, the tremendous share of growth in the Nigerian tech ecosystem, and that is also as a result of where we find ourselves in our economic trajectory or in our economic life cycle. You know, financial inclusion, the potential to be able to onboard a massive amount of population into the formal economy actually drives that fintech growth. But as the other parts of the economy open up, agriculture, property, energy, I think you will begin to see even more growth in those sectors. As government makes more enabling laws, you begin to see even more growth in the ecosystem as we start to get more versed with funding these types of startups. And as the funding community in Nigeria too begins to learn more about venture funding and venture investing, the only way to go is up.
But do you think we are taking enough advantage of the tech talents, the abundance of tech talents that is available in the ecosystem today?
I think we need to nurture the talents we have a whole lot more. I think we need to build our talents and make them much more globally competitive. And of course, this has to do with the education sector. Today, the average, the percentage of the budget Nigeria spends on education is about 6-7%, which is much lower than the global average, right? In Lagos State, we spend twice as much as the federal government spends. As the percentage of our budget that we spend on education is about 14%, so about twice the national average. So because we realized that we need to leverage and build up the capacity to resource our startups and their entrepreneurial community. So I would say from a national perspective, there's really not enough leveraging on that talent. We need to nurture it. We need to build it up more. We started quite a number of activities, and certainly in Lagos, we will do more.
Well, so one issue that worries me personally is unemployment. Countries like India have shown how you can leverage technology and build out solutions at scale and get the world to buy into it. What is Nigeria doing about that?
One thing we have to look at is, first of all, to build the capacity for people to be employable, right? Because one of the complaints we get from the market is that, look, a lot of people are being churned out from universities and colleges of education, but they are not employable. So how do we improve employability, right? And that characterizes a lot of interventions that agencies of Lagos State, like the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund has. Another thing we are doing is we're investing in science research across the universities to be able to get things like patents, right? Original ideas. Now, original ideas, original inventions are actually pots of wealth, right? when an invention is made, a patent is granted. And then from that patent, you can build a company around that product, right? People get hired, economic value is created, and things like that. And by investing in education, right, which of course would deliver much more qualified people to the workforce, because it's multi-dimensional. It's not just that people can't find work, but do people fit the jobs, right, that they are looking for? Are people employable? Are there enough original ideas floating around for value to be created, right? And then is there enough opening up of the economy? What are the kinds of policies that government is laying down to be able to get people hired?
So tell me, what is the government doing to ensure that there is, I know you mentioned it earlier about more local investors, because even though you reeled out the figures that startups have raised, many would argue that a lot of value is stored abroad. What is your take on what the government can do to encourage more local investors to come and put their money in startups?
Okay, that's a top-notch question, and I'll answer it in multiple ways. Part of the reason I would guess that local investors are not familiar with the startup ecosystem is that they just don't know or have the information, right, to be able to delve deep into the startup ecosystem. Venture investing is something that is relatively new, not new globally, but new in Nigeria. So how do you bridge the information divide for local investors, right, to begin to put value, right, into these companies and retain the value locally? Is by government putting its money where its mouth is, right? And all being that investor itself, right? And then when people see that, okay, government is also taking a chance in these sectors, the money also will follow. Then the local communities and the local ecosystem begins to see that, okay, there is something of value here, right? And by us also providing the information, making the information accessible, making them understand what venture investing and startup funding is, then we begin to see much more local participation in the ecosystem.
All right, so what will be your final words to startups watching this program at this point in time and wondering whether they can actually build a viable startup here in Nigeria?
Nigeria has many challenges where there's no gainsaying that at all. Lots of challenges all around. But the proof is also in the pudding that you can build a successful startups, just even from the level of funding that has been closed and that's funding rounds that have been closed and completed, the continued growth of the market, the increasing interventions that we are having, especially in Lagos State in the startup ecosystem. I would say that the potential in each of the markets is yet to be fully realized, right? There is the startup bill that will be coming up very soon later this year. I think they just launched the startup bill website from the Office of the Presidency. The startup bill seeks to make the legal framework for startups much more easier. They can get permits faster, maybe tax incentives, create safe havens and things like that. So there is still a lot of promise and a lot of fire, that is behind building startups in Nigeria. I would not bet against Nigeria at all when it comes to the startup ecosystem. There's still a lot that we are doing that we need to get right, but the ground is real ripe and the potential is still there. And there are a lot of people, even within government, that are very friendly to the startup ecosystem. I would like to be seen as a friend to the startup ecosystem. I am actually, because that's how I live and breathe every day. So I would not bet against Nigeria. I would not bet against Lagos State at all.
Thank you for being on the program today. I wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.